Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for our daily semifinal recap show. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. If you like listening to us chat about CrossFit news and everything that's going on in the sport, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. It's moving day. We just wrapped up day 2 in Amsterdam at the Lowlands Throwdown. Lazar, Dukic, Laura Horvath, and CrossFit Reykjavik, they are all running away with the first place spot at the top of the leaderboard. And tomorrow is really when we start to see who is going to fight to either stay or move into that top 5 game ticket position. Patrick Clark, he's here with us again to recap all of the action. Man, I can't believe we only have one more day left of competition, but here's when things get interesting.
It was such a just an exciting day. We had a packed house this morning and a huge. I mean, they came back. There was a long break, and they came back just to watch the heavy lifting this afternoon, and
Oh,
actually this evening, and it was just electric the whole day through.
yeah, and we're definitely going to get to the heavy lifting, but I just want to pull
Yes.
up the leaderboard really quick, just so we can see some of the shifts that we've had from day 1 to day 2. Here we have the teams.
Yep. And really, no change. Reykjavik with the clean sweep. I mean, so far, they're 4 for 4. It's a second and third spot with Zarut's training culture and CrossFit Porti. They've kind of separated themselves. I mean, obviously, 5 teams get the invite out here, but those two seem to be the ones that are kind of consistently been having top 5 finishes. So Zarut's has been really impressive. That team out of Spain. But yeah, obviously the head top of the class is Reykjavik, and I know there's a lot of questions regarding Reykjavik in terms of how they're going to match up with Mayhem, the super team per se. And
Mhm.
they looked impressive, and we'll talk about how impressive later on.
Yeah, well, and even some comparison with
Mhm.
Reykjavik and Mayhem. Now pulling up the men's leaderboard. Let me just reshuffle to rank 1 through 5, looking a little bit different than
Yep.
yesterday, at least 3 through 5, really.
Yep, and that's why it's called Moving Day because you're going to see these with only 6 events. You're going to see a lot of movement, and yeah, there's some unfamiliar names. Enrica Zanoni, he kind of just bursted on the scene today, and then obviously Adrian Munweiler. But it's those guys in those spots just under Munweiler. They're still alive. I mean, Luca Moritz and Luca Vunjak, who we'll talk about later. They're knocking on that door, but right now, if I'm 1 through 3, you're looking pretty comfortable.
Now moving finally to the women's. Here's where we've really seen some shifts. It seems like you have to pay attention after every single workout, refresh the leaderboard
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of different placeholders in this. And even after one of the workouts, there was a little bit of a delay in the leaderboard being updated. So what do you see right off the bat here, PC?
Horvath doing what Horvath does. She's establishing her dominance. I mean, workout 3 is it was kind of just a long grinding. Just it was a grind, and we'll talk about that later. I mean, that's her worst finish so far. I mean, and then Karen Freyova is kind of the same way. She's kind of built the same way in terms of her strengths and weaknesses, kind of like Laura and Gabby. And yeah, Matilda just kind of. I mean, she's a games veteran. She's been there before, but I don't think anyone kind of picked her even as a dark horse. I don't think any of us three, me, Tommy, or Brian, selected her. And then Lucy Campbell, she's looking good. She had that event win,
Mhm.
but yeah, but it's going to be tight. You know, there's still some shuffling that needs to be done at the bottom of that board, especially through 2 through 5, and then you obviously have 6 through 7. With some notable names that are going to be fighting for that final spot, hopefully.
Yeah, we still have one more day of competition. Obviously, before we get into that, let's talk about today. Kicking off with the teams, the event was called Tremors. It was event 3. It consisted of synchro chest to bar muscle up, and worm clean and jerks. CrossFit Reykjavik. They don't even need to look at each other during the synchro movements
No.
to know where the other teammate is at. I think that was one of the most impressive things that we saw with that workout and that team.
Yeah, and that's all credit to Yami for that. Their coach. He has them training. They're doing team stuff. You get a bunch of established individual stars like Lauren, Khan. Even though Khan's been on team and Lauren has been on a team as well, but someone like Annie who's never done team, he's been working team drills, and this workout showed that more than anything they've done because they had probably the ultimate team implement in the worm. So this is the first time, the only time you're going to see the worm at this semifinal and they looked great. They were in sync. They were doing a lot of touch and goes with worm, which you hardly ever see teams doing. But them doing the touch and goes when it came to the cleans, it shows me that they've been doing a lot more practicing, probably doing more worm practice than most people would think of. And then when you think of worm, you think of CrossFit Oslo as well. Oslo has
Mhm.
access to a worm. It's their second team, not the Oslo that we're familiar from last year, but they finished second in that event, and they're also a team that drills using the worm and working as a team. So no surprise there.
Then as the team went into event 4, the team snatch ladder, one of the
Mhm.
most exciting portions of
Wow.
watching the team events. I mean, you had Annie Thorsdottir who hit the heaviest snatch at 198 pounds or 91 kilos, but the team collectively, they totaled 955 and a half pounds. If you looked at the Syndicate Crown Mayhem Freedom, they lifted a total of 935 pounds in the same event, but both teams, they were the only two that had no misses between
Mhm.
any of their teammates.
Yeah. You Mayhem has to be watching this, and I think Reykjavik knows they're watching this, and this was their statement, like, "Hey, yeah, we can play with you." But like you said, this was so exciting. Bravo to CrossFit for programming this, especially for the semifinals. That had the crowd on its feet, and the way they had it formatted with each individual coming through, and then the final stage where you can kind of pick your weight, the 11th platform, where you got to pick one of your athletes, male and female, and they got to put whatever weight they wanted on there. It was so much fun. And God, you mentioned Annie having the biggest lift for women. Oh, Tola, my gosh, this guy
How
right here.
magical was this? I
Oh,
can't get over this.
what? How magical this footage is? This footage is amazing. This was actually shot by Training Day Media. If you guys aren't following him, talented guy right here. But yeah, just check this out.
Okay, so obviously the lift is incredible, but I think
Yeah.
what you're about to see with the bromance, it just is the cherry on top for the day for me.
Yep. Boom. Look at that. Yep. I mean, and if you've been watching any of the Miles to Madison, you see that relationship between them and the team. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of TikToks by Lauren and Annie and Katrin, and those guys are kind of involved with it. But that they really are a team, and they're so different. But I think that's what makes them so unique. And Tola just, yeah, he pretty much power snatched all those until that last one. He probably could have power snatched that one, but that's 308 pounds. That's actually the heaviest lift. I think that just beats my buddy Stephen Wallace from Blue City
Mm.
CrossFit, who hit 305 yesterday. So, bravo to Tola, and yeah, it was fun to watch. They were playing to the crowd. They really were having fun.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen some of the highlights or even the live stream, I would encourage you guys to go back because it's just so impressive. I mean, this is what we all wait for during competitions is to watch people lift heavy.
Heavy
Moving
things.
now into moving now into the individuals though, they started with event 3, jigsaw. This one consisted of a 27-21 15-9 of chest to bar, dumbbell thrusters, and then in the remaining time, max burpee box jump overs within their designated window. Then they rest for 1 minute and go on to the next set. Now, this was one that, as you watched all of the heats unfold, people were going until the buzzer on the
Mhm.
box jumps, but we did see some athletes who held back a little bit early and they ended maybe 2 or 3 seconds early that unfortunately kind of cost them at the end.
Yeah.
Looking at the leaderboard, we saw it was a tie between Lucy Campbell and Ohana Moya, but they were in different heats. A couple shifts in the leaderboard. This one was a little bit all over the place for me, PC. What was it like being on the floor watching this pan out?
I can only imagine how it was watching it on TV, but I know watching it live, it was chaos. Yeah, you didn't really know. I mean, yeah, they had the box flipping and stuff like they had that kind of as your marker, but even then, you didn't know what rep they were on because, like you said, the last like 30 seconds was just back max effort burpee box jump overs, and at the end of the day, it was Lucy Campbell who was in the middle lane and Claudia Gluck who was in her lane is was a couple down lanes over.
Mhm.
She edged out Claudia by one rep, and then Gabby was in the middle too, and she just missed it by a couple reps too. But yeah, it was disorganized. I mean, it was organized chaos, I guess, but it looked disorganized. And at the end of the day, and same on the men's side, there was bodies strewn everywhere.
Right, and they did have rep counters on the side, but it still was really hard to figure out, like, who was
Yeah.
where, and then comparing heats, with the other heats, especially because then there was, a couple of, like, shuffles after the leaderboard was
Hmm.
unofficially posted. Moving on to the men's side, though, Luka Vunjak, he took the win in heat 2, but there was a fun race between, Uldis Upanik and Lazar Dukic that happened in, heat 3.
Yeah, and it was kind of like what you had in workout two as well. I mean, obviously, Uldis kind of pulled away there towards the end, and this is the workout that Lazar and Uldis, who are both known for their engines, and yeah, it was fun to watch that one as well. It was really cool. But yeah, Luka Vukinjek in the previous heat, he yeah, 200 reps. It stood, and you could tell he was way ahead of all the other people in his heat as well.
Yeah, and earlier we were talking about how much fun it is to watch the teams lift heavy. It's also pretty fun to watch individuals lift heavy. And
Mhm.
that's exactly what they did today, ending with workout or event rather number 4. It was CrossFit's barbell complex. Honestly, I think this was the most hype part of the competition so far because so many times you didn't know if the athletes were actually going to make that jerk at the end.
Yeah.
Great squatters, but once you have that much fatigue, that jerk is so hard.
Yes.
We saw with Laura Horvath, even though she won the lift at 233.7 pounds, she was like, hey, I'm going to go for 238 pounds
Why
for
not?
fun, even though, I've sealed the deal right now. She didn't make it, but still took the cake.
Yeah, it was funny because th up until that moment, the she her first lift was going for the win. The previous heat,
Right.
yeah, she went for the win right off the bat, so she was playing with house money the rest of the time, but, one person that was notable in that, even though she went for the win, here's her at, here's the winning lift right here, her second lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was just so clean through it all. And I think I swear to God, I shot this footage. It looks like it slowed down. I swear in person, she was going a lot faster than this. It just seemed like it, and everyone was just cheering. It was just nuts right now. And she just sticks this. Watch her back foot, how it just sticks.
Yep. A little walk forward,
Little
but
walk forward. Yep,
still elbows locked right out.
yep. It wasn't a
Easy.
push. Yeah, she didn't push through it, but yeah, it was fun to watch. It was even more fun is Mia Hesketh. She's coming back from, she's known as one of the strongest women in CrossFit as well, and she was kind of going back and forth with her a little bit. So it was nice to see Mia. I think Mia ended up finishing second. So it was really that's a real good job by Mia, and it puts her in contention for maybe a last chance qualifying spot.
Any other athletes on the women's side? I know that, many people have been watching Sarah Sigmund's daughter throughout the weekend. At this point, she's sitting in 7th,
Hmm.
and I believe she had 2 failed lifts on
Yeah.
event 4 today.
Yeah, she did. She even the first lift, she was kind of straining with. It just didn't look like her legs were there.
Mm,
I don't know physically or mentally, but definitely when it was time for her to, the jerk, you could tell she was thinking about it a lot. So it might be just one of those things where she doesn't trust her knee completely right now, and it was an unfortunate thing because I think that workout there it knocked her down, and she's kind of the outside looking in right now. She's roughly about 50 points out of that game's qualifying spot. So she's got some work to do tomorrow. But it's not looking good for her. But her team, she's surrounded by a good team right now. They're keeping her positive, and they're
good.
going to go out tomorrow and they're going to try to go for it because if she still has a last chance qualifier that she still needs to earn as well if she can't make that fifth spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally on the men's side, Kevin Jers lifting 302 or 332.9 pounds to take the
Yeah.
win on the men's side.
Yeah, so on the men's side, you've seen this in some of the other semifinals where you have like specialist guys who can lift a lot of heavy things, but they're not really good at maybe traditional CrossFit movements. And you kind of had that. Kevin Jers and Fabian Benito. Well, Fabian is actually a pretty decent CrossFitter, but they were in that those first couple heats. So yeah, what I would like to point out is BKG. BKG looked good, and he's not someone just known for his top end strength, but he looked really good, and he was
Oh, yeah,
really
he tied for
his
3rd on that one.
yeah his second lift. He actually showed a lot of emotion. for BKG, which is typically you don't see. And then he nailed his third lift and just walked off. It's like typical BKG
Mm,
style. So yeah, I was really impressed by him, and he had a that performance kind of put him into comfortably in that third spot overall.
right. So a lot of shifts in the leaderboard on day 2. This is something that, we expect to see, but
Yeah.
now moving into day 3, what are some of those athletes' storylines that you're really gonna be paying attention to before we ultimately see who punches their ticket to the games?
Well, two athletes that kind of stick out are Lazar. Lazar. A lot of people kind of like what they thought this was BKG's semifinal to win. Lazar's got a pretty big lead, and Lazar could be the new king of Europe if he wanted. He's trying to snatch that title away from BKG, and this is a good start. So I'm keeping an eye on him and see how he deals with being in the lead. And then on the women's side, it's Sarah. I mean, we talked about her again. Obviously, she's a well-known name here. Every time she goes out there, the fans are cheering for her. And when she missed those lifts, it was like a collective sigh, and let's just see where she's at. She knows where her team has made her well aware of where what's in store or what's at stake for her. So we'll just see if she can bounce back and you know give it her all tomorrow and stay healthy. So those are the two things I'm looking for tomorrow.
One more day of competition.
One
Patrick Clark,
more.
thank you so much. We will catch up with you tomorrow when we have
Hmm.
the crown title and know who is the first set of athletes going to the CrossFit Games.